someone who's undocumented have if they're a victim of a crime?
That's a great question. You know, a lot of undocumented immigrants here, they don't know their rights, but they have the same rights as citizens that are granted in the Constitution. And they definitely have the right to be safe in their communities. And that's why the U visa was passed by Congress.
All right, now let's go back. Why, if someone is undocumented, would they have any rights?
You know, I think that Congress and just us as a society and people in general, we're still, you know, undocumented people are still human beings and they deserve to be treated fairly and be safe in their communities.
Communities that they're not entitled to be in.
Well, there's immigrant communities, and a lot of undocumented people are in mixed families. So a lot of my clients who are undocumented, their children were born here and they're U.S. citizens, and they're all living in a community intermixed and intermingled.
Do you deal also, Margaret, with people who are undocumented?
Yes. And they are eligible for state victim compensation as well. It's not restricted because the funds come from criminal fines. It's not taxpayers' money.
So when you talk about criminal fines, explain that. Is the criminal fined?
Yes. At the sentencing, judges order a minimum. Currently, I believe it's at $200 for a misdemeanor, and between $200 to $1,000, and for a felony, it's $200 to $10,000.
Okay, I have some figures on that there's a minimum of $100
For a misdemeanor?
for a misdemeanor, and it could
Okay.
go up to $1,000, and $200 for felonies that could go up to $10,000.
Yes, and actually Governor Brown just signed a law into that is going into effect, I believe, beginning of next year, where it is going to increase that by double.
Now, explain to me, not thinking in terms of people who are involved in the drug trade or perhaps the sex trade, I would think people commit crimes, some of them, to rob people. And if they had enough money, they wouldn't be committing the crimes. So how do you find somebody who might not have any money anyway?
They may end up with money in the future. And that criminal order is good for a lifetime. It is not wiped by a bankruptcy. If they win the lottery, then they should.
Yes. But
Now-
suppose somebody murders somebody and they're put in prison for life.
Very good question. While in prison, they work, and a percentage of that is collected through prison every month.
But they are paid pennies.
Still, it adds up to hundreds of thousands of dollars every month.
Really?
Yes.
Oh, you mean by all of the all of the prisoners?
All of them, and not just their wages while they're working in prisons, but also their trust account is garnished. Family members, friends sending them money into their trust account.
Well,
part of
explain
that
a
is-
trust account. Prisoners have trust accounts
Yes,
that their families send them money.
yes.
But their families send them money for them to use to buy various things in prison, and the prison system takes their money.
Because there's an order to pay the victim. The victim
So
is
do the
entitled.
families know that the money that they're paying for their loved ones in prison may not go to their loved ones in prison?
I'm sure they part of it still does.
Oh, okay.
But
Although
I'm
that
sure.
wouldn't be our concern. We're talking about victims getting money, right?
Right, and it's still pennies, really, because there is no way the state of California will be able to help every single victim of violent crime. Thousands of victims go on with paying out of their pocket without even knowing this program exists, and they have a right to file and to be compensated. And on top of that, it's not just the fines from collections in California, but the federal government also helps every state at the end of the year, whatever the state pays, usually the federal government comes and matches with 60%. And that money also comes from a pool of criminal fines at the federal level.
So how much money are we talking about? Potentially.
It's still not enough to help the victims, where recently benefits were reduced by the board that has the oversight on the state victim compensation and government claims. For example, in my case, I help victims with funeral and burial compensation, and it used to be $7,500, which is not enough in Santa Clara County, San Mateo County to cover a decent funeral and burial.
What does a decent funeral and burial, a minimum?
Between
Cost.
between $11,000 and $15,000 minimum. I have not seen anything less unless it's cremation. Under that, under
I feel like saying just for a
$11,000.
casket, but we better not go there.
Yeah, so for many years, the $7,500 was not enough to cover out-of-pocket losses for the family. But starting April 1st of this year, the benefit was reduced to $5,000.
Because of the state's economic situation?
The shortages in collecting criminal fines and orders, not enough is coming into the pool of fund where they could help.
So the prison system needs to be taking more money.
That or even those that are out on probation, that's really where there is a problem with the collection. Is even though it's ordered, they're on probation, but it's not collected.
Well, yes.
Oh, no, I was just thinking that, it seems to me, in my client circumstances, it's really unfortunate because I think every case that I've seen, it's violence that's going on within these communities. And even when it's violence outside of their community, unfortunately, the victim is a lower income and the perpetrator is also lower income. And I think that really leads us to the thought that this is really an epistemic problem. And I don't know, in hearing this, if it will ever be resolved just by collecting more money from perpetrators that are now out on probation that were convicted, because will they ever be able to get really high paying jobs where it would be a significant amount of money being put into this pool to then refund their victims?
Yes, I was even thinking that people who are out on parole are usually the least hired or the last hired, and they have difficulty getting jobs. They can't even afford places to live, or they're turned down from apartments. So they're denied resources, which in turn would affect their ability to even pay into the system.
That's true, but as a victim advocate, I don't feel that part of
The sympathy for,
yeah.
but we want
And
more money.
I want to make sure that these people do find a job. If they have to go do whatever type of work, and also to feel the pain when it touches your pocketbooks, collecting while they're, working hard, earning their money. It's still reminding them what the victim has suffered. It's the victim who may have paid out of their pocket. Who's talking about them? Who's feeling for them? And what about if they've lost their homes? And I've seen many victims, by the time they found the victim compensation program, they've lost their homes. They were out of the job for 3-4 months, could not pay their mortgages, and lost their homes. And it takes years to collect that restitution, but still every attempt must be made to collect.